Hi, this is Dan Edmondson again with a tip of the week. Today what I want to talk about is what makes paintings look dirty, okay? You might be going along painting your painting fine, and then all of a sudden you'll notice that there's a spot on the painting that just doesn't look right, and it looks dirty. And there's normally three things that cause that, and the first is you putting the wrong temperature piece of paint in a spot where it should be the other temperature. So in other words, if it's in a warm area, like in a shadow area on a warm object, for example, like an orange or a pear or something like that, or on a face, and the shadow should be warm, but you come in with a piece of cool, it's just going to make it look dirty because it's not the appropriate color. That's one of the first and most common ways that something looks dirty, especially in portraits or even in fruit or in a vase. It's the wrong temperature. So normally what happens, it normally goes this way. It occurs where the piece of paint should be warm and you mistakenly have something cool there. That will make it look dirty. So that's the first thing you check for, okay? The second thing is it'll make it look dirty is if you go over and over and over on the same brush stroke. What happens is the other paint that's on the brush, as well as paint that may be underneath that brush stroke, begins to all mix, and before you know it, it becomes kind of mashed together and you get these dirty areas, if you will, because we start to introduce complements into it. So try not to go over and over and over the brush strokes and licking them down, because that will also lead to dirty looking areas. Instead, pick up a nice piece of paint like this and then make one brush stroke or maybe two brush strokes, and then wipe your brush and go from there. And that's how you keep your paint clean, okay? Now, there's another way that you can do this, another way that you can dirty up your paint. Let's say that you've been painting and you've got all these different colors and you're mixing in your turpentine trying to clean your brush all the time. Well, what happens is when you do that, when you're mixing in your turpentine, let's get some other colors here. And let's say you even wipe it off, but we still have that, and then you wash it in your turpentine, right? And then you wipe off and you grab another color and you wipe off and wash it in your turpentine, okay? So what happens is, even though that brush looks pretty clean, as soon as I push it down, zoom in for me if you can. As soon as I push it down, you'll see all these other colors. Here's white paint. As soon as I push it down, you'll see all these other colors come mashing out into the paint. Do you see how that is white paint, but we have all these other colors here? And when you're unable to control those other colors, that's what makes the painting look dirty. So there's a couple solutions for that. First, wipe off your brush instead of dipping it in your turpentine. What happens is when you dip your brush in the turpentine, it gets wet and all this paint up here gets smeared around, and it can very easily come down and contaminate the rest of the paint, especially when you're mashing the brush down. Don't do that either. That's the second part. Don't mash the brush down. Always think about painting with the last 1/3 of the brush, okay? Don't try to paint with the whole thing. So instead of making a brush stroke where we mash it down and get all that going, instead make nice delicate brush strokes with only the tip of the brush. And I can go from one color of paint, like painting with, now I can pick up some white and I can have beautiful strokes with that. But as soon as I mash down, you see how it all gets contaminated. I can even go from white paint to red paint back to another color and have it not affect it because I'm painting with the tip of the brush, right? Now I've got red on there. I'll come back and pick up some white. but I'm still going to be fine because I'm using the tip of the brush. Okay, so that's your tip of the week. 1, don't mash down when you paint. Only paint with the tip, the last 1/3 of the brush. That's probably the biggest takeaway from this. And secondly, if it looks like it's dirty, it's probably either too cool. It's either too cool or too warm. Change the color temperature, and don't mash it down, because that's how you get all that dirty, messy, turpentine-y paint in there. You don't even need turpentine when you paint. In fact, turpentine is the most hazardous thing you have in your studio. Not necessarily because it's the most hazardous itself, but because when it's open, it's always evaporating. You're always breathing it. You don't want to do that. Okay? That's Dan Edmondson with another tip of the week. You have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye.